Alrighty, it is time for another review. This one is going to be on the NTH right here. This is the Amphion, Amphion, in case you're curious how it's spelled. It should be in the title description anyways. Commando. I think this is the second version, maybe third. But this is the newest version that has this stainless steel bezel that has the countdown timer. As you notice, the numbers go backwards, kind of, and it has a 12-hour secondary time zone function as well. And this should go by quick. We'll see if we can keep it under 15 minutes because I've reviewed these two. It's brothers or cousins, whatever you want to call it, in the NTH subfamily already. I've done as a double review, so pretty much spec wise what holds true in those is pretty much in here. And so let's get a closer look at this one. Oops, let's see, it's getting kind of blurry. Let's see what we can do here. It's clear enough. So this is let's get a closer look here. This is obviously, I think, very much a mill sub homage, just judging by the, the Submariner, classic Submariner style dial and the sword hands. I apologize, I really shouldn't have done it at this time because the hands overlap, but hopefully in the next few minutes it'll open up here. As you may or may not know, I do these whenever the heck I get a chance to do them. So it may not be at the most ideal times, but anyways, yeah, sword style hands, the same kind of similar pointer that the mill subs have, and that's Rolex mill sub. I think you want to reference like the 5.5. There's a couple ones, but I guess 5517 is maybe the true military only version. Which this dial basically is very much an homage to, but it's definitely got a different and unique bezel. This doesn't have a black aluminum bezel like a mill sub would. This is stainless steel. It's brushed, nicely engraved, and it's got fully graduated, you can see, which is cool, and it's a countdown. And for those who are wondering what the difference is versus something like back here that has your typical time-elapsed diving bezel insert. This one you set, at the time of start, and then and then you just see the time tick down. And as you get closer to whatever amount of air you have, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it may be, then you'll know. And then if you go past that, then you better get the heck out ASAP. And this one is not fully graduated, so I guess it's not truly diver spec, where I think real divers ones need to at least have the graduated minutes indicator, at least up to 15, sometimes 20, because those, I don't think air tanks go beyond that. And if you can have it fully graduated, then you're covered. But for the most part, I think between 15 and 20 is where it matters the most. So that's how that works. Versus a countdown is a little bit reverse. You use this pip to indicate exactly when you want to stop, or it's a time to really pay attention to. So say you set 15 minutes or so, or 10, let's say 10, somewhere around there. Then you know this minute hand, once it reaches right about here, then you know that it's time. Excuse the sniffling, I got like major allergies, and I'm not snorting coke for those who want to say that. No, I got allergies really bad. The weather sucks, so I apologize for any sniffling that you might hear. Anyways, so yeah, so then it counts down 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. Then you can easily see where it is that you have to pay attention to, which I think is maybe more useful. I mean, if you know that you have 10 minutes or whatever, this gives more substantial like indicator, like, oh, pay attention to this spot once the minute hand reaches that spot, versus I'll use this one for example, versus this one where if you set it and you're trying to count 10 minutes or so, yeah, you can see the 10, but this being a more unique indicator throughout the whole bezel, it's one of its kind, a bit larger, it's triangular shape, it kind of sticks out more amongst everything else. That, having that over here as like how this is, would probably get your attention as it gets closer, versus this one, if you're not, maybe if you're not really used to it, it's easy for the minute to creep up and your mind slips, and then you can actually go past it if you're not paying attention to it. Hey, wait a minute, when am I supposed to stop? Oh yeah, 10 minutes, okay. Or maybe it's 15 and it's not even really truly fully indicated except for this mark here. All right. So different ways of time, they both can work. I mean, you just got to think about it differently. So like the other NTH, they have the same great, very solid clicking, no play bezel action that locks into place. Everything is generally pretty well aligned. They may be slightly off, but it's darn close enough to where it doesn't matter. And so yeah, they don't budge, and it's got a nice down sloping bezel like the rest of these, which I prefer. Keeps the overall profile towards the outside and around thinner and flatter looking. I like that, and then that way the edge, the grip area is actually kind of on the thin side, but because of the way how hard they're cut, machined, very strong teeth, they really do, that edge here really does get a good grip on your fingertips and the I guess your fingerprints and it's real easy to turn, and if you had gloves wouldn't be a problem either. So yeah, so those are similar, the same case shape and dimensions. 11.5 thickness. I think it's 47 lug to lug. I'll probably have the specs put up somewhere just to reconfirm. 40 millimeter case size and 20 millimeter lugs. Screw down crown, 300 meters water resistance, Miota movements. This one will have the 9015 because it has the date, and these two are without date. And I believe, sorry, hold on, let me try to blow my nose. Okay, excuse me. So hopefully I'll be clear for a while. They all have the drilled lug holes, which is great for strap changes. They both come with the oyster style bracelet, just like this, solid end mill, solid end links, solid links, screw links, easy adjustment, micro adjust, flip lock, double pusher, kind of a clasp there. Works great. I like it. This design is fine. I don't need the glide lock, which would be nice, but for me, I rarely, once I find my sweet spot, I rarely, if ever, change it for wrist swelling. It doesn't seem to affect me that much. At least I find a happy spot where it can work either way, and I don't really have to adjust it. But it's there. You got plenty of them, as you can see. But I have this on a NATO because I think because the kind of more tactical military name implies commando, and it's the look of it. It's a kind of a mil sub look. I think it works on a NATO quite nicely. Many different kinds. Two-piece strap would work. Yeah. So let's go into some of the differences between this and the other ones. It's mainly, the bezel, the dial, and the hand design. and whether it has a day or date, but that really doesn't matter. Oh, I was saying the movement without the date is at least, I think both of these should have the Miyota 90 S5. That's basically the dateless, no date version of the 9015. So you don't have that phantom position when you pop it out. Unscrew it, it pops, and then you can wind it, hand wind it, and then pull it out, and it goes straight to hacking. You don't have that in between, like some of these. Not this one, but I think earlier on when they had two models, a date and no date version, they just used the same 9015, so you still had a phantom date. But since then they've corrected that, and so if they have both models, date no date, then they will have the appropriate movements. So that's good. You don't want to have to deal with that extra pull or push past position that's pretty much a dud. So that's good. So we'll go into this design, right? I'll show you what the differences are, but this one again is more MOSUB, definitely in the dial. To me, this also makes me feel has a look of a Tudor black base steel, just because of the general case shape, no lug guards, crown guards, general shape and size of this crown too, and this clean kind of aesthetic. Doesn't have snowflake hands, but those do have like the Submariner style dial, but with a date, but of course the steel with the red arrow, that's kind of black base steelish. And the only watches that I can think of that have this dual purpose bezel, like a countdown timer and excuse me, and a 12-hour bezel counter for a second time zone is off the top of my head. There's a limited edition Heuer Octavia model, a Jack Heuer limited edition. Just look it up. That's Octavia, and you'll see that version that has it's a black bezel, but it does have like these dual countdown as well as 12-hour markings on here. So real simple. If you're 3 hours ahead, like in East Coast time, I'm in the West Coast in the United States, you set it like that. So it's 8 here in the Pacific, but over there it is closer to 11 p.m. right? And say for instance in Asia, like in Hong Kong relative to me, if it's beyond 12 hours, right, you just simply go 12 plus, say, I think they are about 15 hours ahead. So yeah, it's almost like East Coast, but that's why I like 24-hour bezels. It's less thought that has to be put into whether it's AM or PM. But anyways, so 12 plus 3, that's 15. So that's 15 hours ahead. So you just got to think, well, if it's 8 p.m. here, 12 hours ahead, that means there'll be AM in the Hong Kong time, for instance. Then you look at the time, then it means it'll be 11 a.m. in Hong Kong. And that's how that works. Just look it up, it works out. Consequently, if you were in Hong Kong and you went the other way around, this is how you would use it. It might be a little confusing to some people because it's just 12 hours, but you're in Hong Kong, say it's 8 p.m., then and then you're thinking, okay, I'm sending it back to my home time in the United States. That means it's actually behind 15 hours. So you go 12, and then it's minus 1, 2, 3. So this you want to have up here, but it's unidirectional. So that means you just basically have to get that over to this side, this way. Not a big deal. Yeah, I know some people really bitch about not having a bidirectional bezel for a GMT or 12-hour bezel, but come on, how hard is that to just turn around? So now it's 15 hours behind. So if I was 8 a.m. here in Hong Kong, for instance, if I were, then I'm at 8 p.m. So that means in the United States, in the West Coast, it'd be the PM time, and that should make it approximately 5. Well, I'm sorry, it's actually it's not 8. It's actually 7:53, right? So that means it's about 4:53 a.m. In the West Coast time if I were in Hong Kong. So that's how you kind of go backwards the other ways. I'm not sure if anyone's aware of that. Everyone I've seen that ever used one of these, they only show East Coast time 3 hours, or maybe what, London or England, which is just another 2, less than 12 hours examples. Which, yeah, sure, that'll work, but when you have more than that, I think it's more critical to kind of put it into perspective and think about how does that work with this bezel, and that's how you would do it. That's it. Great movement, very reliable, solid, consistent. I had these synced up for a little bit, and they're holding pretty good time. This might be running slightly faster than this one, or if I'm not mistaken, but they're usually within +2 to +4 seconds a day. At least if they weren't, I try to regulate them until they're within that. I rarely try to have my watches faster than 4 seconds a day. It's just something I've gotten used to. So it'll be 4 seconds or less a day. And if I err on a deviation, I'd rather have it on a plus, because I'd rather hack the movement, wait for actual time to catch up, and then sync it again, push it in, and keep the seconds running. Versus if it was behind, then you gotta not only have to hack it, then you gotta advance the time forward a bit, and then wait for actual time to catch up, and then sync it. It's a little bit longer, fiddly process. That's why it's better to err on a faster deviation, gaining seconds. So just hack, wait, and then set and let it go, and you're good for a few more days, or maybe a week, or however fast your watch might be running. So last thing I wanted, it's definitely going over 15 minutes, but that was my dog. Yes, it's in the background too. The last thing I want to touch on is that these NTH models, I mean, I had some reservations on, let's zoom up a little bit. Had some reservations about getting more than one at one point. I actually started off with the Nazario Saro, which was the white dial version that's full lume, blue hands, gold seconds, stainless steel bezel. It was cool. Really liked that one, but ended up selling it. Reasons I'll get into later, but not in this video. But anyways, I had reservation after about this one was my next one. I said, okay, that's good. And then I was wondering, at the time I had the other one, and I was saying, should I get this one too? But they're basically the same case design. It's just the dial and handset and the bezel are different, right? So, is it worth it? I'm not getting everything. All else is basically the same and equal. And obviously 3-4 watches in, actually, right? I've changed my perspective, just because the sizes and proportions of this. It comes with a bracelet, which is good. I like it. It's very articulate. Not all Lynx Oyster bracelets do that. A lot of times these 3 are fused and it's one solid piece, and so this is very articulate. I like the drill lugs because it makes strap changes easier. And if you know me, I do a lot of strap changes. But the 20mm size is good. Lots of straps that I have, and that's probably the most common that you can find, other than probably 22 these days. The case design is nice. I like it. It's mostly brushed. There's some high polish, bevels and the edging like that, where it counts, just to give it a little pop. The action is really good. It's thin, relatively thin for a 300mm diver. Again, I think it's 11.5mm thick. Lug to lug isn't all that long either. Again, I think it's 47 or 48. Anyways, I would have listed it by now in this video. And the lume has always been good on all these. They're reactive, they last long, whether it's BGW9 or C3 such as in here, but these two are BGW9. Even the bezel action, the lume, a lot of times those go out faster than anything else. But then that's all very equal. I've never noticed any major deviation or irregularities in the lume potency and longevity between the bezel, the dial, and the hands. They're all pretty much even, with the exception probably of like the thinnest ones that you would get in those little minute markers, because there's just that much little less application of it. And actually, if you really look, they actually do still glow, but they just aren't as bright as the thicker applications, such as the 5-minute ones or the outlines on this guy. And of course the general filled in parts like in the hands and the bezel. So all the lume's good. The quality's there. Solid Miyota movement. Some people complain about it, but the design, there's so much more to it than that. I mean, and it's reliable. It's serviceable. It's replaceable if you want to just do it yourself and just get a whole new movement. Probably cost you less than servicing it if you know what you're doing. You got the right tools, do it yourself, bam, you save yourself quite a bit of money probably, and you basically get a brand new movement. 300 meters water resistant. I like this kind of vintage style, which basically is no crown guards. It just looks cleaner to me. I usually don't like crown guards for some reason these days. It's just easy access, and it's just simple case, crown, boom. I don't get into any situations where this gets knocked around or moved much, if at all. So that's not an issue. So, you know, with that in mind, I think of it as, it's not exactly a Rolex, but in the same vein in some ways, like concept. You know, the oyster case is basically Rolex design throughout almost all the models, right? With some variances, but essentially it's the same thing. Although there are the super maxi cases, and then there's the vintage ones, yeah. But just take for example, if they're within the same era, right, period, they will have the same kind of either, you know, more or less the same kind of general shape to the case and build and quality, and they just basically change out the dial and the bezel and the hands, right? Maybe the movement, I guess, but don't get into that. We're just talking about the outside primarily. So it's kind of the same thing, you know. If you got something that works and is great, go with it. It's all right. And I think there's so many versions of the NTH subs. This is just a small sample. If you look at what they have now and what's been before, you'll see a huge variety. So there's something for everyone, and I think they're different enough. And I just wanted to show you these next to each other. I mean, barring the strap choices, obviously you can imagine them all on their stock bracelet, or just concentrate on this part of it, right? You know, all the same dimensions, but quite a different feel, right? This is like more it's a mix. It's kind of contemporary with the Fume dial, and you see that texture in there in the dial, the vertical brushing, this kind of light blue or even silver to like deep dark blue gray or something. This is a very dynamic dial. I think that's a very modern aspect. The fact that it has blue BGW9 lume is also very modern. So that relates to, I think, like the Tudor Pelagos, especially with the hands, which the snowflake hands and stuff are also in the vintage snowflake mill subs that they had too, but is also in the Pelagos, where they have full lume bezel and the hands in BGW9, right? So you got both of those. You got like the Tudor black base sort of style case with no lug guards, and the general kind of just the crown by itself here, right? But you got some things that it doesn't have, which is drill lug holes, 11.5 millimeters thick, which even the black base 58 can't even be, it's thicker than this. um, and you got this, I think, improved bezel design and the grip for it. It's stainless steel. I don't think they all have stainless steel bezels, as far as I'm concerned. It's just solid, and you don't have faux rivets, and everything's flushed. And you don't, you got more color variety and designs than the subs, at least even within the ones that look kind of more Tudor inspired, that Tudor probably would never put out, like something like this. They're very much just black or dark blue and or black gilt, but you know, basically black. So you got this kind of feel, and then over here you got again mill sub. You know, to me it kind of has a Tudor black base steel look to it, right? But then it's kind of its own thing, especially with the countdown bezel and the 12-hour timer, and just again the details and how the case is done, and the bezel and stuff, and the lume crown. Actually, they all have lume crowns. Yeah, so it's kind of its own thing here, but this has a more military utilitarian look to it. Right, this is more kind of vintage, kind of slash modern, or modern new vintage, whatever you call it, kind of look. And then over here you have something I think is pretty original, a California dial, which not a lot of people do actually. It's not to everyone's taste, but you got that ghosted NTH logo and the specs here. You can see it kind of come up and disappear. These all lume. Anything that you see it's white basically will lume. Yeah, for a basic black, stainless steel, black dial, black bezel diver, this is pretty unique. The only thing that kind of comes close to this is the, and I mentioned this before, I think in my review video, is the Bamford, one of the Bamfords. They have many Submariners that they do in all black, but then they have a version that has kind of a skeletonized or outlined Submariner style. So you see like circles, this rectangle, and a triangle like that, kind of outlined, and it's hollow or black in the middle. And I think the Mercedes hands are like that too. So that's kind of like that idea, but it's not. It's not this dial and look, right? No Mercedes hands. It's not Submariner style dial. Or I would look at the Unimatic. The U1, oh god, I had it in my head. Look at my video for this review. I think I listed it in the description what this kind of reminds me of. It's UNE1. Basically, it's like a Submariner style too, that's kind of hollowed out, but it's very plain. Like there's like maybe one pip or something here. So that's that look. And then they also have, they did make a California dial that wasn't skeletonized like this, it was all filled. And so I think it's kind of like a mix of that Unimatic look. But yeah, nobody's done it exactly like this, so it's kind of nice and unique this way. This is a watch gauge exclusive. And this, I feel out of all these, this one could be, and I have tried to dress it up a bit, put on a leather strap, maybe even a croc. I think it could work. Just because it's not fully graduated. Overall, it's cleaner on the dial. It doesn't have much apparent specs and things going on. And I think the California, the mix of Romans and the Arabics kind of lend itself to being casual too, but you can use it in a semi dressed up formal way too if you style it right. So you got that going, and so when you look at all these together, I mean, basically they're the same watch underneath, and for the most part outside of the bezel insert and the dial and the handset, right? But they look completely different. You just don't get the same feel from all these, right? So sometimes you want to do something that's got more color, something more dynamic, could go for something like this. You want something more tooly, feeling more like Commando, or, and you know, I like things that are military looking, and maybe you have clothes that have these kind of tones or that could match with it better, or this theme. Go for this, and then you want to just do something that's looks kind of classic yet it's modern, and there's just nothing quite like that. At least I'm not aware of on the market in this configuration with these specs and everything. And you just wanted to go with a classic black on black, or kind of high contrast, right? Black and white. That's a nice look too. And so yeah, it's just, I just wanted to show you these together, for example. And then if you had other ones, then you get so much more variety even within the same general build. But again, it's all in the details, and that makes a huge difference in you know, in being able to round out and diversify your watch collection, even though you've kind of bought sort of the same watches, but they're not. And that's why I don't think I can keep all these, unfortunately. I have some limited space, and I'm trying to make room for something bigger coming in. So I'm trying to decide which one to keep, which has been hard. I sometimes feel sometimes I'm going to go with this. It's the most dynamic dial, right? But then sometimes I feel like, well, I like this military look too, you know, this kind of tooly. Again, I always like the Black Bay steel, kind of, and it gives me kind of that look and feel to it as well. You know, it's not the same thing, but it has a very similar aesthetic, right? And then this is kind of cool too, because this doesn't exactly pay homage to anything, as opposed to these two. These are a little bit more obvious, right? This one, not so much, right? You don't usually see cathedral hands for a diver and California dial. And so I think the way it's done is really nice, high contrast, just black and white. And I don't know, it still looks sporty. It can be kind of dressy, or at least casual dressy. And this looks good on like black straps too. And they all are great strap monsters. So I don't know. I mean, I've been trying to hold on to all of them, but at last I must decide on, try to decide on one. I don't know yet. So we'll see where this goes. But while I have them, I wanted to do a review. So there you go. So this is really not a triple review. I just wanted to pull these in to supplement this guy here. So we'll just zoom back up, or I'll pull him up closer, and we can take a look. That this is the Amphion, and by NTH, and watch here. What's that? Lint. There we go. Got rid of that. And yeah, this is a good watch. If you want that kind of military look, this is one of the best ones that's new, that just came out. They'll give you that mil-sub feel without being a complete copy or homage to it, which they have done. If you look at the old Amphions, they did have a fully graduated black bezel, Submariner style, but fully graduated, which is cool. And I think it had faux H lume too, which kind of played the part more. But this is something different, you know. Feels similar, but at least it's kind of, I don't know, remixed and refreshed and its own thing now. So I don't know. I think it's cool. I like it. 40 millimeters on my 6.875 inch wrist. Just a hair under 7 inches, at least on my my left wrist, which I mostly wear watches. Although if I go to my right, it's at least 7. It might even be up to 7.25, because I'm right-handed. But there you go. Just zoom out a little bit. It's good scale, you know. I think for the 7 inches and slight under, such as mine, being 7, 6.75-ish, even 6.5 possibly. I think 40 is maybe the max you'd want to go. I mean, you can certainly push it depending on the watch design and style, but yeah, something basically pretty classic yet modern. isn't too overwhelming, but it has just the right amount of wrist presence, and the quality is there. And it's very versatile with a lot of strap options, as you can imagine. This version of the watch. Okay, it's gone definitely over 15 minutes, as usual, but that's the way it goes. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.